What is going on here? This is tritone substitution. In classical music theory, it's called augmented sixth, and that's why I started with Beethoven's example. And I made just short arrangement for the introduction. I made kind of bluesy influence because in Bebop language, they use these chromatic chords on the base of blues kind of the colors. That's why this is blues is very important in jazz vocabulary. And also we will have the video for you in the Bebop language, and I will explain blues influences a lot. And let's go back to our main chord. This is tritone substitution. And when we have tritone substitution, it is closely related with the dominant 7. When we have the, for example, sub 5, primary sub 5 is related with primary dominant 7, primary 5 dominant 7, which is primary dominant. And let's look at the nature of these two chords, why they can have the substitutive relationship. And they have two common notes, and they are very important because they have structural value. Let me explain the chord tones, and then we can see the close relationship. Okay, we have G dominant 7. This is 5 dominant 7, right? When we have G dominant 7, this the chord tones of G dominant 7, G, B, D, and F. Let's see the chord structure. G, B, D, and F. What about D flat dominant 7, which is substitute for G dominant 7? And when we have D flat dominant 7, we have D flat and F, A flat, and C flat. As you see from the common notes, we have F here, and we have B, and C flat means B in terms of inharmonic relationship. Then you can see this is the root notes G, D flat, and we have B, here B, this is inharmonic counterpart, and we have F and F. That's why they can substitute for each other. Let's hear the sound first. This is G dominant 7, and this is D flat dominant 7. Of course, we have difference in the fifth, right? And we have D and A flat. But the fifth, in terms of the structural value, doesn't have a strong function. That's why when you want to get the real color of harmonic progression, I mean, you can use the root, third, and seventh, of course. I mean, it works perfectly. Don't worry about it. Okay, now we can have the explanation about that relationship. And in terms of analysis, we have 5 dominant 7 here. And when we have D flat dominant 7 as a substitute 5 dominant 7, then which is the primary dominant 7, we have sub 5 7 for our analysis. And let's take this the information and apply to our primary tonal progression, which is 2-5-1, and we'll see the variations of the 2-5-1 on the base of that relationship. After explaining this relationship, and then we'll talk about the chord scale relationship. Okay, let's look at the primary tonal progression 2-5-1. And we have 2 minor 7. We are in C major tonality. Please don't forget the centricity of tonality, because when you don't have that, when you lose that relationship, especially in terms of larger composition, you start to feel lost about the chord progression. This is very important. And most of the examples in this video series, I will use the C major tonality for the sake of simplicity. Okay, and we have the 2 minor 7. We have G dominant 7 and C major 7. And this is our primary tonal progression. 2 minor 7, 5, 7, and 1 major 7. Okay, this is our resolution. And let's apply the first sub 5 chord. Our first variation, D minor 7, D flat dominant 7, and C major 7. When you have the chromatic relationship in this 2-5-1 relationships or dominant resolution patterns, and we'll use the dotted bracket or dotted arrow that symbolizes chromatic relationship. Okay, we have dotted bracket here. This is 2 minor 7, and this is our sub 5, substitute 5. And because of the chromatic relationship, we use the arrow in dotted form. Okay, this is 1 major 7. Okay, this is our second variation. For the third variation, we'll use the structural progressions based on fourths and fifths. And here we have D flat dominant 7. When we have the fifth relationship on the basis of the related 2 minor context, we have A flat minor 7, D flat dominant 7, and C major 7. As you see from that relationship, the distance between A flat minor 7 and D flat dominant 7 is based on the perfect 4 and 5th. It's a kind of the when you start to count the distance from D flat to A flat, it gives us the 5th. When we start from the A flat to D flat, it gives 4th. I mean, they are the same, they have the same quality, and that's why I use the structural progression based on 4ths and 5ths. Okay, what about the relationship in terms of analysis? And we have the, again, bracket. This is normal bracket because of the 5th relationship, and we have dotted arrow, 1 major 7, sub 5. Okay, and here for the A flat minor 7, what do we need to talk about in terms of functionality? There is no Roman numerals because this is non-diatonic chord first, but the relationship for us to use that chord in our C major tonality is coming from the D flat relationship because they have the 5th and 4th relationship in terms of related 2 minor chords. Okay, then the last one. Instead of D flat dominant 7, we can use G dominant 7, and we have the 4th variation. A flat minor 7, G dominant 7, and the C major 7. And here, this is the resolution pattern, 1 major 7, 5, 7, and we have the chromatic relationship here, and dotted bracket, and we have the normal arrow, and because of the 5th resolution. And this is our main variations on the basis of substitute 5 relationship. And let's hear the progression qualities, and you can see, I mean, they sound very close, and you can see the very like subtle changes, but that gives chromatic more colorful progressions in terms, especially for the bebop language. That's why most of the bebop players, they love to use the chromatic language in their jazz improvisation vocabulary. Okay, let's start with the primary tonal progression. This is 2, 5, 1. The next one, 2, substitute 5, 1. The third variation, A flat minor 7, D flat dominant 7, C major 7. The last one, A flat minor 7, G dominant 7, and C major 7. After having this knowledge about the related 2, because in our previous video we talked about the related 2 context, and here we have the variations, right? And let's talk about the chord scale relationship on the basis of related 2 minor in terms of the relationship tritone substitution. And for 2 minor 7, we use Dorian. Okay, let's write the Dorian scale here. D, E, F, G, A, B, and C. And here, this is our chord tones, 7. And this is our tension notes, tension 9, tension 11. This is our avoided note, scale 6. Okay, and for Dorian, and that, especially in modal context, that note, scale 6, it has a very crucial role because, especially in Turkish music, and also when we talk about modal harmony, we will analyze some of the so what, some of the chord progression, so what, Billie Jean, and you will see the parallelism of these two styles in popular music and also in jazz. It's very, very common. And also Turkish folk music, that note has a very special function. This is Dorian, and for the characteristic note effect, and when we want to use that mode, and we start from that kind of influence, like si do re la sol fa mi re, and this mi has microtones. That's why I didn't play that note, because in Turkish music we use the microtones to give the special colors for the modal scales. Okay, and this is Dorian, but we are in tonal context, and that's why in our second video I was trying to explain the contextual references. If you don't have contextual references, you get dependent on the technical explanations, but you cannot get the contextual color, and also that creates the kind of limitation for the relationship between thinking and listening. This is the most important thing about the contextual references. Okay, we are in tonal context. Okay, let's look at our dominant chord, the primary dominant chord, which is G dominant, and this is mixolydian. Okay, we have G, A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay, this is our chord tones, 1, 3, 5, flat 7. This is our tension notes, tension 9, tension 13. This is our avoided note, scale 4. And in our second video, I explained the relationship about the avoided note function in Ionian. Here, I mean, in mixolydian, it has the same thing about the avoided note and modal tonal context difference. Okay, but when we talk about D flat dominant 7, we'll use the Lydian flat 7 chord scale. But Lydian has a very special color. And before going into details about the D flat dominant 7, let me explain the context of the Lydian. When we have the Lydian, that chord scale is directly related with the 4 major 7. Let's look at the details. This is our 4 major. Let me write 4 major 7. And we have F, G, A, B, C, D, and E. And these are our chord tones 7. And tension tones, tension 9, tension sharp 11, tension 30. Okay, and when you look at the textbooks and literature about this explanation, you cannot see the avoided note. And the most general explanation about that situation, they said, okay, when you look at the tension notes, they have the major second distance between each chord tones. Okay, it works perfectly in mathematical relationship. What about the context? And this is the most important thing about the hearing aspect of a musical experience. And look at the B. And B has a very special function, because when you want to divide this octave, when we have this like 2 equally divided section about the F major, that creates a very like the flexible sound about the B. In modal context, B has a function for characteristic note for F Lydian. But here, because of that, the symmetrical relationship, B has a place to take place in tonal context. That's why you can use the Lydian, especially for any, and we'll talk about it, non-functional harmony, especially for the chord progressions, especially for the non-functional harmony. For the major 7 sounds, you can use Lydian in any context in terms of non-functional relationships. This is, very, very flexible sound, and you can be very comfortable about the contextual relationship. Okay, then we have new chord, right? This is substitute 5. For substitute 5, and also there is very important the chord scale for the improvisation especially, and also some of the arranging purposes it works perfectly, which is altered chord scale. But I don't want to go into the details about it. I would just want to show the relationship about the chord scale relationship between the D flat dominant 7 and G dominant 7. Okay, we have mixolydian for G dominant 7. But what about the D flat dominant 7? We use the mixture of the Lydian and mixolydian. It's called Lydian flat 7. Let me write it down. Okay, let's see the Lydian flat 7. And I will use the D flat Lydian 7 to show the relationship. Okay, Lydian flat 7. This is D flat, E flat, F, G, A flat, B flat, and C flat. Okay, and also in terms of vertical aspect, you can see the common notes here between Lydian flat 7 and mixolydian. Look at this relationship like G, C flat, which is B, and F, right? In terms of structural relationship, they have almost very similar sound. Here we have G, B, and F. Okay, let's see what's going on in terms of the tension and chord tones relationship. We have 1 chord tones, 3 again chord tone, 5 chord tone, flat 7, and this is our tension 9, tension sharp 11, and tension 13. Okay, and here it's a kind of mixture of Mixolydian and Lydian, and that creates also very consistent sound about the integration into tonal context. That's why it's very flexible. That's why you can use in terms of the chromatic relationship, and also you can use for your improvisation, and you can create different colors in terms of the chromatic relationship again. Okay, right now we have the basic explanations for the main structures of tonal chord progressions, which is the secondary dominant, it's their chord scales, and related to, and also substitute 5. We have all the structural relationships and chord scale relationship. In our next video, we'll have more structural explanations, and we are going deeper and deeper. When we go to that place, you will have complete view of tonal harmony. And also that was my beginning of the kind of the emotional and also transformation. I will explain my story in the next video. Bye bye.